A dry, tearing whisper, soft, sudden, final. Like paper pulled too quickly, like fabric surrendering. She freezes before she understands. Her breath locks in her chest, sharp and shallow, as if her lungs have forgotten how to work. The cotton dress loosens against her shoulder, the seam giving way. Her hands fly upward, clutching the torn edge, fingers digging into the cloth as if dignity itself might fall to the ground. The air smells wrong. Not smoke, not blood, but gasoline, soap, cold iron, American smells. Boots scrape against gravel behind her. Heavy boots, confident boots. Someone clears his throat. Another voice speaks, low, unfamiliar, careless with its power. She does not turn around. She has been taught that looking at the enemy invites disgrace. Her heart pounds so loudly it drowns out the camp around her. She waits for pain, for laughter, for hands that will not stop. Nothing happens. Only the wind moves through the barbed wire. Only engines hum somewhere beyond the fence. Only the unbearable awareness of her own body. Exposed not by force alone, but by fear. This is how it begins, she thinks. And yet something feels wrong. Because the silence that follows is not cruel. It is hesitant. The truck rattles forward, metal groaning beneath their weight. She sits rigid, wrists bound, knees pressed together, one hand still clutching the torn fabric at her shoulder. Every jolt of the road sends a dull ache through her spine. But she welcomes the pain. Pain is familiar. Pain makes sense. The world beyond the wooden slats blurs past, fields too wide, trees too tall, skies too open. This is not Japan. This is not home. Even the air feels different, heavier, carrying the smell of fuel instead of smoke. Her mother's voice rides with her in the darkness. If you are captured, do not trust their kindness. Kindness is the worst lie. In school, they told her Americans were beasts, that they laughed when women cried. That capture was a fate worse than death. Better to starve, better to disappear. Around her, the other prisoners are silent. One woman whispers prayers under her breath, lips barely moving. Another clutches a small cloth bundle as if it contains her entire past. No one meets anyone else's eyes. The truck slows. Her heart stutters. She swallows hard, tasting rust and fear. This is the moment, she tells herself. The moment the stories become real. She tightens her grip on the torn dress and waits for the world to prove her right. The truck stops with a final shudder. Silence crashes down, sudden and absolute. For a moment, no one moves. Then a voice, calm, almost bored, orders them out. She steps onto gravel, legs unsteady, eyes fixed on the ground. This is where cruelty should live. But the camp smells of bread. Warm, unmistakable bread, yeast and heat, and something almost sweet. Her stomach tightens violently, a sharp reminder of how long it has been empty. The barracks stands straight and whole, wood unburned, windows unbroken. No shouting, no raised rifles. An American soldier points toward a washing area. A row of metal basins glints in the light. On a table beside them sit thick white bars of soap. Untouched, clean, smelling faintly of flowers. The woman next to her makes a small sound, half sob, half laugh, and quickly covers her mouth. Another soldier gestures to her torn dress. Her pulse spikes, panic flooding back. He steps closer, grips the loose fabric carefully, and pulls just enough to widen the tear. She flinches. Then he stops. Dirty, he says gently, pointing to the soap. Then to a neat stack of folded clothes. Clean clothes. Her hands begin to shake. This is not the horror she was promised. And somehow that terrifies her even more. The first meal arrives on a metal tray, heavy in her hands. Solid in a way, wartime objects rarely are: bread, potatoes, meat still glistening with fat. The smell alone makes her dizzy. Her stomach twists violently, torn between hunger and disbelief. She eats slowly, each bite feeling like a betrayal. At home, bowls are empty. At home, her mother pretends not to be hungry. Here, the food keeps coming. Across the room, a woman whispers, "Is this allowed?" No one answers. Later, a guard notices the tear in her dress again. He frowns, not with anger but concern, and returns with needle and thread. He places them in her palm and nods once, as if this simple act needs no explanation. That night, she writes in her diary, the pencil trembling between her fingers. "They feed us," they speak softly. "I am ashamed of how relieved I feel." Outside the barracks, America hums with life. Lights glow in distant houses. A train whistle sounds, steady and calm, not fleeing from bombs. She lies awake, staring at the ceiling, understanding something she does not want to understand. Cruelty would be easier. Kindness demands questions. The letter arrives folded too many times, its edges soft from travel and worry. Her name is written shakily across the front. For a moment she cannot open it. The paper feels heavier than it should, as if it carries the weight of home itself. She reads slowly. Food is scarce. The city is damaged. Her father is gone. The words blur. She presses the letter to her chest, fingers digging into the thin paper as if she might pull him back through ink alone. Around her, other women read in silence. One sobs quietly. Another stares straight ahead, eyes empty, letter forgotten in her lap. That night, she dreams of the torn dress again. But this time, an American soldier is sewing it carefully, his clumsy stitches uneven but determined. She wakes with tears on her cheeks and shame burning in her throat. How can the enemy mend what war destroyed? She watches the guards laugh among themselves, share cigarettes, complain about the cold. Ordinary men, not monsters, not devils. The propaganda inside her begins to crack. If they are human, then what has she been fighting? If they are kind, then what does hatred mean? She writes one final line in her diary before closing it. The most frightening thing is not their power, it is their mercy. The announcement comes quietly. No drums, no ceremony. A guard reads names from a list, voice flat, almost careful. Transfers, repatriation, the war's long shadow, beginning to loosen its grip. When her name is spoken, it feels unreal, as if it belongs to someone else. That night, she sits on her bunk with the diary open on her knees. The pages are thin now, filled with cramped handwriting. Fear at first, then confusion, then questions that never quite find answers. She turns back to the earliest entry, to the day of the torn dress. She understands it differently now. The soldier had not ripped it to shame her. He had ripped it to save her. Dirty fabric carried disease, lice, infection. In the camps, sickness spread faster than cruelty ever could. The tear was not violence, it was urgency, clumsy and poorly explained, carried out by a man who did not speak her language but did not wish her harm. The truth settles in her chest like a quiet ache. She had prepared herself for brutality and missed the meaning of mercy. As dawn breaks, pale and colorless, she folds the dress carefully. The tear has been stitched closed, uneven but strong. She runs her fingers over the seam, feeling the rough knots of thread. This scar will remain, not as proof of humiliation, but as evidence of something far more unsettling. That the enemy had a human face. That war had lied. That hatred had been easier than truth. Years later, she will tell no one about the dress. Not the tearing, not the fear, not the moment she realized the world was more complicated than she had been taught. But sometimes, when she smells soap, thick, white, faintly floral, she is back there again, standing in a foreign camp, heart racing, hands shaking, learning in silence that the greatest shock of the war was not cruelty. It was kindness where none was supposed to exist.